This episode of Grip Tips is brought to you by Lightbulb Grip. We're back. I'm Dave Donaldson. Welcome back to Grip Tips. Today we're going to talk about the almighty CStand. Many people have asked me to do a tutorial on this, and today I believe that we are finally there when we look in depth on the CStand. The C in CStand actually stands for century. Back in the 1920s, they used to have revolving stages outside so that they could use the sunlight to light a set practically. As the sun would move throughout the day, the stage would rotate to compensate, but they still used reflectors that ranged in all different sizes, but the most common reflector that they used was a 100-inch reflector, which they then nicknamed the century, as century's definition is basically 100. And not only does it mean 100 years, but it also means a company in a Roman army or a bicycle race, and yes, Wikipedia is a hell of a tool. Now factually, I don't know if this next part is true, but what I assume probably happened is they invented the stand that would actually hold up these centuries, therefore giving the name Century Stand, aka CStand. But the difference was back in the 1920s, the bases were actually welded together. There was no opening and closing of the bases. However, what I do know factually is that in 1974, a little company called Matthews Studio Equipment had actually made the first spring-loaded base stand. Which thank God, because I can't imagine packing a truck with a stand that doesn't close. There's a few different styles of C-stands. There's the spring-loaded turtle base, which is helpful because you can take the riser out and replace it with a butt plug, yes, a butt plug, and have lights low to the ground the same way that you would with a beaver board. Then there's the other kind, which is the Rocky Mountain sliding leg, which is used in situations where the stand is being tilted either by a stairway or a hill, in which you can take the biggest leg and place it so that the stand sits up straight. Now, not only do we have two different types of C-stands, but we also have different heights of C-stands. One in particular that a lot of people know is the Gary Coleman, which as you can see here is with Gary Coleman. Let's go into how to use a C-stand. The first thing to note about a C-stand is that whenever you're grabbing one, make sure that you are always wrapping your hand around the riser and the Gobo arm at the same time. Now, I basically learned this the hard way when I was a swing, and I was working with a 7'1" Russian gaffer named Jan, who had asked me to bring him a C-stand, and I was holding on to just the riser portion. And when I got to Jan and his 14 knuckles per finger basically crushed my fingers between the Gobo arm and the riser. I learned an important lesson that day, which is never trust a 7'1" Russian gaffer named Jan. But in all seriousness, it did teach me a good lesson that day, which is to make sure that I'm always grabbing onto the riser and the Gobo arm. Next up, how to open the stand. Personally, my favorite way is to put the stand on my shoulder and open it up, starting with the bottom leg, spinning it until it clicks into place. And by that I mean there's a small cutout that matches exactly where the leg is supposed to fit. Then grabbing the middle leg and doing the same thing until it clicks into place, the stand is now open and I can put it down. I personally like doing it this way, but if I'm not conscious about what's behind me, I could hit something or someone, so that's a flaw. So I always have to be conscious of what's behind me when doing that. It hasn't happened yet, but that's not to say it couldn't. Then there's this way, which is turning the C-stand all the way upside down to open it. Some may say that this is a less hazardous way because the C-stand is in front of you, but I kind of feel like this takes a little longer, and I almost feel like I have less control opening it. I also see too many people that get confused when flipping it over, and when they go to open it up, they end up doing this kind of thing. Last but not least, and this is for the Rocky Mountain C-stands, you can hold the stand and rotate it until the legs fall into place. Then lock off the knob, boosh, you're done. And this I also kind of feel is one of those things where I have to be conscious about where the Gobo heads are, because I could still hit somebody, but it's probably the safer of the three, maybe. So personally, I don't think it really matters as to how you open a C-stand, but just be aware of your surroundings when you do. Also, when setting a stand down, make sure that the stand's biggest leg is pointed away from you in the direction that you will be placing a Gobo. The reason for that is that the weight of the Gobo, for instance this 2x3 solid, will be working against the biggest leg of the stand, and if the Gobo is directly above the biggest leg, it will have a hard time falling. Where if I didn't do that, it would have an easy time being pushed over. You're also going to want to make sure to always put sandbags and shop bags on the tallest leg of the stand, not the middle or the lowest, the tallest. The rule of thumb here is that the bag should never touch the ground. My sandbags from Digital Juice are just a little big, so if that happens to you, bag over the knob of the stand, and that should lift the bag off the ground, putting more weight onto the center of the stand. Another thing to remember is that the grip head knobs need to be on the right-hand side and the little knobs need to be on the left, more commonly known as the method of always on the right. The reason for this is that when a working load is on the Gobo head, if the Gobo head starts to fall, the Gobo head will start tightening itself, preventing an accident from happening. The rule also carries over to the knuckle, which will also tighten down on the Gobo arm if it starts to fall. In this example, you can see that it's difficult for me to push down on the Gobo arm, where if I turn the arm around and do it to the other side, the Gobo head releases pretty easily. And just as another example, here's a sandbag on the correct method of always on the right. As you can see, it pretty much stays still, and now we'll reverse it for the incorrect way, and the arm pretty much gives up on its own. So for the Gobo heads, always on the right. I've also heard turn toward the source, because if the Gobo is over here, you're turning toward the Gobo, but always on the right or turn toward the source. I think you get it by now. Now let's talk about the Gobo heads themselves. For the Gobo heads, there are 2 holes mounting either a baby pin or smaller. There's also this flat biting kind of end, and something that I've seen in a few tutorials out there that drives me crazy is that they say that you could take a putty knife and mount it to the inside of the head so that you have a baby pin to attach to. Ah! No! Slapped myself on the head like 6 times now. Now, a lot of people who are green don't really know this trick, but if you actually turn the arm around to the pointy side, you already have a baby pin available. I suppose if you want to be more technical about it, you can take an adjustable baby pin bar clamp adapter from your Fernie clamp and attach it to the back of the arm to undersling it and secure it further, but if you don't have that available, attaching the light directly to the arm is perfectly acceptable. Adjustable baby pin bar clamp adapter, adjustable baby pin bar clamp adapter, adjustable baby pin bar clamp adapter. Oh, I did it! 3 times! Now, if you're just using the stand to hold a flag, also be aware of this end as well. If my stand is like this and someone walks by and doesn't see it, boosh, right in the eye. There's also a way to prevent this though. If you have a high enough ceiling, point the arm down on an angle, which then lifts the back of the arm up and out of the way of the foot traffic. There's also number 2, which you could attach a tennis ball or something really obvious to see on that end. This will prevent crew members from walking by and accidentally hitting themselves. We're almost there, I promise. It's about the halfway point. You will not believe how long it's taken me to even get to this point. So let's keep going. Another trick is that let's say you need a little bit more arm out of the CStand, but the stand is starting to creep into the shot. We can fix this by taking 2 arms and mounting them together by slipping both arms into the Gobo head receivers and tightening the heads on both sides. Now you can take a loose Gobo head and mount it on the end for a net or a flag, or use no Gobo head just to mount a light. Now we've made an extended Gobo arm. And now you can see the difference that the 2 inches gave us before and after. If you do end up making something like this, just make sure that you're double bagging the CStand. But now that we've extended the Gobo arm, we now get that couple of extra inches that we were looking for. And the last trick. Let's say that you want to bounce a Tweenie into a 4x4 foam board, but you only have the 1 stand. The Tweenie is probably going to be heavier than the foam board, so you'll have the reverse Gobo arm and the grip head on the left-hand side, spinning the knobs toward the Tweenie. Then take a duckbill clamp and mount it to the Gobo head of the Gobo arm. Place the foam board bounce into the duckbill clamp and boosh, a 1-standed light and bounce. And if you need to cut the light or add a net, you can also attach 1 more Gobo head to the other end of the arm and add a flag. 3-in-1, light, bounce, flag, all in one, boosh. Now, if I have 3 stands available, I'm going to set up each thing separately on their own stand just for safety's sake. But if you only have the 1 stand and this is something that you need to do, this is an option. I wouldn't recommend doing it outside, but that's just because if the wind picks up and you have a solid and you've got a bounce, it could push the whole thing over if the wind does pick up. But if you put this anywhere, make sure that you're just double bagging it. Way too many double bagging it jokes here. So there's a couple of different ways to use a CStand and also the correct technique when using a CStand. But now let's talk about set organization. And this is also called nesting or soldiering or staging. When loading in on set, find what direction the set is going to be from your staging area. And when you place a stand down, point the littlest leg of the stand toward the set. Then take the biggest leg and place it over the littlest leg of the stand. Repeat this process until you are out of stands to set up. The reason we point our littlest leg in the direction of the set is because it makes it easier to grab the stand and walk away toward the set without getting any tangles into anything like walls or what have you. Last but not least, it's the end of the day and we're wrapping out. You can close the stands a couple of different ways, and one method is to kick the legs closed, and it's not really my favorite because I could get unbalanced on 1 foot. You could also hoist it up back on your shoulder and close it like you opened it. You could also put it on your knee and slap the legs closed. And some will argue that you actually need to put it on the inside of your knee and then slap it closed. I completely disagree with this. As somebody with male genitalia, I don't want to take the risk. As stupid as I am, I will hit myself in the penis. And the sponsor cometh. Lightbulb Grip is a lighting rental house based out of Brooklyn, New York, and they're dedicated to the education and safety on all film sets. If you have any questions about rigging, on-set safety, or even gear that you've seen in today's episode, you can contact them by heading over to their website at www.lightbulbgrip.com. So we're not done yet. I decided that because this was such a long episode that I was actually going to give away not just 1, but 2 CStands. One's going to be a spring-loaded turtle base, the other one's going to be a Rocky Mountain, brand new, Matthews brand, 2 CStands. So in order to be entered into this giveaway, all you have to do is make sure that you're a subscriber to my channel and then repost this video in Facebook or Twitter with the hashtag GripTipsCStand giveaway, and you're automatically entered to win. So the winner will be announced on April 15th. That's a Saturday, but that is all that I have for you guys today. If you like today's episode, please let me know in the comment section below, or you can follow me on my Twitter right here. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We'll see you every week right here on Grip Tips. I can do one more. I can do one more. Same place. Don't hold back this time.
Alright.
You ready?
Yep.
And boom! Alright.